So welcome. This is a video based upon asymptotes. So all horizontal asymptotes, vertical asymptotes, and slant asymptotes. So first question, we'll try to write the vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes means make denominator equals to 0. So x equals to 3 upon 2, x equals to 3, x equals to 5. Make always the denominator equals to 0. That's going to be my or vertical asymptote for that particular graph. X equals to 5, x equals to 3, then x equals to negative 5, x equals to negative 5 upon 2. That is the way how we will be finding it out, the vertical asymptote. For finding the vertical asymptote, what is the thing that we need to do it out? Make the denominator equals to 0. So we get it out the vertical asymptote. But for horizontal asymptote, we need to, there are two conditions. If the degree of the numerator is same as the degree of the denominator, then we will divide by the coefficients. So degree of the numerator is same as the degree of the denominator. So over here 1 upon 2. So 1 upon 2. Over here minus 4 upon 2 becomes minus 2. Now if the degree of denominator is bigger, means it's a bottom heavy equation, then y equals to 0. Now for this part it is y equals to 0, but I have plus 1, so 0 plus 1, 1. Y equal to 0, minus 1, so y equal to minus 1. Now degree of numerator is same as degree of denominator, so 2 upon 1. 2 upon 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. So what's going to be the asymptote? Y equals to 3. Degree of numerator is same as degree of denominator, minus 4 upon 2. Minus 4 upon 2 is minus 2 plus 3. Minus 2 plus 3 is 1. So y equals to 1. Degree of numerator is same as degree of denominator. So minus 1 upon 1 minus 1. Degree of numerator is same as degree of denominator. So 3 upon 2. That's going to be the way for horizontal asymptote. Coming to question number 2. Find the equations of the asymptotes. So now degree of numerator is same as degree of denominator. So my horizontal asymptote becomes y equals to 3 upon 1, which is y equals to 3. Vertical asymptote will be always denominator equals to 0, so x equals to negative 2. Find the x-intercept. X-intercept is going to be y equals to 0. So 3x minus 6 equals to 0, so x equals to 2. Now coming to y-intercept. So for y-intercept means x equals to 0. So what does it do? Plug in x equal to 0. So y equals to, it becomes negative 6 upon 2. So y equals to negative 3. That's going to be the y-intercept. Now sketch the graph. So now once we know the horizontal and vertical asymptotes. So first of all, whenever drawing the graphs, first draw the asymptotes. Horizontal asymptote is at y equals to 3. So draw the graph of asymptotes with the dotted lines and x equals to negative 2. So those are the asymptotes. I am drawing the asymptotes at y equals to 3 and x equals to negative 2. Once I draw the x-intercepts and y-intercept. X-intercept is at 2 and y-intercept is at negative 3. Then join the curve. So the most probable curve will be in this way. Its reflection should be there. This is a sketch of the graph. Now what is being asked? Write down the domain and range. So for domain, you need to remember that what values of x I can plug in. I can plug in any value except negative 2. And range. What is the meaning of range? The y values. We can see that it can be any value except that our asymptote. Asymptote value was 3. So range is any value except 3. So y is not equals to 3. Next, find the point of intersection of the graph f and the line y equals to 1. So 3x minus 6 upon x plus 2 equals to 1. So 3x minus 6 equals to x plus 2. So from there, I'll be getting the value of x as 4. That's going to be the answer. So 4 comma 1. Question number 3. Write down the equation of the asymptotes. So horizontal asymptote will be bottom heavy equation. So y equals to 0. Vertical asymptote will be the denominator equals to 0, so x equals to 2. Now x-intercept means y equals to 0. But we know that what is this? 3 divided by something cannot be possible, never equal to 0. So no intercept on x axis, no x-intercept. For y-intercept, y-intercept x equals to 0. So plug in, what do I get it out? Y equals to, what is that? Negative 3 upon 2. Now sketch the graph. So we know that the horizontal asymptote is y equals to 0. So I draw y equals to 0, and vertical asymptote is x equals to 2. X equals to 2 is the vertical asymptote. I'm drawing that. Then y-intercept is being given. There is no x-intercept, so y-intercept, what is the y-intercept? Y-intercept is negative 3 upon 2, negative 1.5. So now the only way to draw the graph joining this is in this way. So it's reflection over here. This is going to be the graph. Next is asking find the domain and range. So what will be the domain and range? Domain means what values of x I can plug in. I can plug in any value of x except 2. That is domain. And range. Range means the except that asymptote value. What was the equation of the asymptote? Y equals to 0 was the equation of asymptote, and x equals to 2. So except 0, I can get any value. So y is not equals to 0. Question number 5 or 4. The graph of the function f of x equals to ax plus b upon x plus c is shown below. Find the values of a, b, c. Now clearly from the graph or from the equation, the horizontal asymptote is y equals to a. Whereas from the graph, the horizontal asymptote is y equals to 3. So it implies a equals to 3. Next, from the equation, the vertical asymptote is denominator equals to 0, x equals to minus c. But from the graph, the vertical asymptote is x equals to minus 2. So negative c equals to negative 2. So c equals to 2. So what will be the equation becomes now? Y equals to 3x plus b divided by x plus 2. Now we know that it is passing through this point 2 comma 0 is the x-intercept. So plug in that one. So 0 equals to 6 plus b upon 2 plus 2. So 6 plus b equals to 0. So what do I get from there? B equals to negative 6. So I got the values of a, b, c. So my equation now becomes y equals to 3x minus 6 upon x plus 2. What is he asking us to find it out? F of 4. So plug in 4, 12 minus 6 upon 4 plus 2, which is 1. So f of 4 equals to 1. He's asking f inverse of 1. Move f to the other side. So f inverse of 1 equals to 4. By observing the graph, solve the inequality f of x is less than or equals to 1. F of x is less than or equals to 1. So draw a line at 1. So you can clearly see that it is intersecting at 4. So the graph should be below 4. X value should be less than 4, but we have the asymptote at 2, so it should be greater than 2. So no equal to symbol with negative 2. So x lies between negative 2 and 4. Question number 5. The graph of the function f of x equals to x minus 6 upon x minus 2 is shown below. Write down the images of horizontal asymptotes. Now, this is all about vertical translation. This is all about horizontal translation. So in vertical translation, what it says, the horizontal asymptote also moves accordingly. So over here, if at all I'm moving 2 units up, so 1 plus 2 is 3. So if at all I'm moving 2 units down, 1 minus 2 is nothing but what? Minus 1. Then I'm multiplying with 2, so 1 times 2 is 2. I'm dividing with 2, so 1 upon 2. And minus, so y equals to minus 1. When you are doing the horizontal translation, the horizontal asymptote will not change. So it continues to remain the same. All these are horizontal translations. So the horizontal asymptotes will not change. Same is the case. This is vertical translation. This is horizontal translation. Now, for vertical translation, the vertical asymptotes will not change. So the vertical asymptotes continue to remain as x equals to 2, x equals to 2, x equals to 2, x equals to 2, x equals to 2. But for horizontal translation, the vertical asymptotes will move accordingly. Plus 2 means it moves minus 2. So 2 minus 2 will become 0. 2 plus 2 will become 4. 2 divided by 2 will become 1. Always opposite operation. Divided by 2 becomes times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And minus x means it is times minus 1 means divide by minus 1. It's going to be minus 2. Question number 6. Express the function in this form. So for part A, so 4 times of x plus 3 plus 5 divided by x plus 3. So this gives me f of x equals to 4x plus 17 upon x plus 3. Coming to part B, g of x can be written as x plus 10. X plus 10 can be written as x plus 3 plus 7 upon x plus 3. So it becomes x plus 3 upon x plus 3 plus 7 upon x plus 3. So which becomes 1 plus 7 upon x plus 3. Then part C, h of x, 2x plus 10. 2x plus 10 can be written as 2x plus 6 plus 4 upon x plus 3. So take 2 common, x plus 3 upon x plus 3 plus 4 upon x plus 3. So which is 2 plus 4 upon x plus 3. So vertical asymptotes. He's asking vertical asymptotes. What will be the vertical asymptotes? Denominator equals to 0. So in all the cases it is x equals to minus 3 is going to be the vertical asymptotes for all the 3 cases. Now horizontal asymptotes. Coefficient of x by coefficient of x. So for f it will be 4 divided by 1 which is 4. Now this is a bottom heavy equation. So this is y equals to 0. 0 plus 1 will become 1. Again y equals to 0. So 0 plus 2 will become 2. All bottom heavy equations will have y equals to 0. What do I mean by bottom heavy equations? The degree of denominator is more than the degree of the numerator. Question number 7. Write down the equations of the asymptotes of the graph G. So this is again bottom heavy equation. So y equals to 0. So 0 plus 3 will become 3. So horizontal asymptote is y equals to 3. Vertical asymptote is denominator equals to 0. So x equals to 2. Describe the sequence of transformations of 1 upon x to this one. So 1 upon x becomes 4 upon x. 4 upon x becomes 4 upon x minus 2. 4 upon x minus 2 becomes 4 upon x minus 2 plus 3. These are the 3 steps. So for that, what am I going to write? Vertical stretch. Use the exact words, vertical stretch with scale factor 4. Then this one is horizontal translation. Horizontal translation, 2 units right. 2 units right. And this is vertical translation. Vertical translation, 3 units up. Next question, write down the equations of the asymptotes for H. So horizontal asymptote, coefficients of x divided by coefficient of x. So what does that becomes? Y equals to 3. Vertical asymptote will be denominator equals to 0, x equals to 2. Now again describe the sequence of transformation that maps the graph f of x into h of x. So first of all, I have to convert this function into a proper form. So for that I'm doing the long division. 3x plus 1 divided by x minus 2. 3 times 3x minus 6. So remainder is 7. So h of x can be written as what? 3 plus 7 upon x minus 2. So 1 upon x becomes 7 upon x. 7 upon x becomes 7 upon x minus 2. 7 upon x minus 2 becomes 7 upon x minus 2 plus 3. So this is vertical stretch with scale factor 7. Then this is horizontal translation 2 units right. And this is vertical translation 3 units up. This is going to be the answer. Question number 9. Write down the equations of the horizontal asymptote. We can see that horizontal asymptote is at 1. So y equals to 1 is the horizontal asymptote. Vertical asymptote. Vertical asymptote is at x equals to 2. So let me write in different color. So y equals to 1. So x equals to 2, x equals to 5 are the vertical asymptotes. Complete the following table. So as limit x approaches infinity. So it is telling positive infinity. So x is approaching positive infinity, x is approaching negative infinity for 1 and 4. When it is approaching positive infinity, so we can see that it is coming near to the asymptote, so 1. When it is approaching negative infinity, also it is going to be 1. Next, approaching the next question, part 2, or second part, 2 minus, and this one is 2 plus. Remaining is 5 minus and 5 plus. What is the meaning of 2 minus and 2 plus? So it is approaching 2, x is approaching 2 from the negative side. 2 minus means approaching 2 from the negative side. So it is approaching 2 from the negative side. So obviously it's going to be nothing but what? Negative infinity. But it is approaching 2 from the positive side. So it is going to be positive infinity. Next time it is approaching 2 from 5 from the negative side. 5 from the negative side. So it is negative infinity. And 5 from the positive side, it is positive infinity. State the results of the from part C which justifies horizontal asymptote. So horizontal asymptote was 1, right? Which were the answers for 1? 1 and 4. So for part 1, it was 1 and 4. Vertical asymptotes. We have two vertical asymptotes, x equals to 2, x equals to 5. So x equals to 2 is my 2 and 5, and for 5 is 3 and 6. So it's going to be 2 and 5, 3 and 6. Question number 10. The graph of the function is given. Write down the domain and range. Domain and range. Domain means the what values of x I cannot substitute. If denominator becomes 0, it's not possible. So x is not equals to 2. So because at x equals to 2, the denominator becomes 0, so it is not possible. Now range. For range, my horizontal asymptote will be the answer. So horizontal asymptote was y equals to 3. So y is not equals to 3 is going to be the range. So for the range, better horizontal asymptote gives you a clear idea. Now write down the equations of now part B. That one was part A. Part B, horizontal asymptote. Horizontal asymptote was y equals to 3 and vertical asymptote was x equals to 2. X-intercept and y-intercept. X-intercept means y equals to 0. But we know that. So what does it become? 6x plus 1 equals to 0. It implies x equals to negative 1 upon 6. So what is the point? Negative 1 upon 6 comma 0. Now y-intercept. Y-intercept means nothing but what? X equals to 0. It implies y equals to 1 upon negative 4. So what is the point? 0 comma minus 1 upon 4. Question number 10. Write down the domain and range. Domain, the denominator should not be equals to 0. So x is not equals to 2. Range, what is going to be the horizontal asymptote? It's a bottom heavy equation. Horizontal asymptote is 0. So the range is y is not equals to 0. Now part B, what is the horizontal asymptote? Horizontal asymptote is y equals to 0. Vertical asymptote, x equals to 2. Next, x-intercept. X-intercept means y equals to 0. but 6 divided by something cannot be possible. 6 in divided by something will be never be 0. So no y x-intercept. Y-intercept, it implies x equals to 0. So what does it becomes? Y equals to 6 by minus 4. So what is that point? 0 comma negative 3 upon 2. Question number 12. The diagram shows the graph of y equal to f of x with x-axis as an asymptote. He told that x-axis is an asymptote. X-axis is an asymptote means y equals to 0. On the same axis, draw the graph for y equal to f of x plus 2 minus 3, indicating the coordinates of points A and B. What was A? A was negative 5, negative 4. So what does that becomes now? Because it was plus 2 means minus 2. Minus 7, minus 5 minus 2 becomes minus 7. Minus 3. Minus 4 minus 3 becomes minus 7. For part B, this was A prime. B is nothing but how much? 5 comma 4. Now again, x value changes with minus 2. 5 minus 2 is nothing but what? 3. And minus 4 minus 3 is what? 1. So B prime is 3 comma 1. So 3 comma 1 is 1 point, and minus 7 comma minus 7, this is minus 5 minus 6 minus 4 minus 5 minus 6 minus 7, minus 7 comma 7. Now approximately draw the same shape. That's going to be the graph. Write down the asymptotes. Equation of the asymptote. The horizontal asymptote was y equals to 0. Horizontal asymptote does not changes for horizontal translation, so it is y equals to 0. Now I'm moving it up, down 3 units. So horizontal asymptote also moves down 3 units. I am again moving it down 3 units. Horizontal translation, no effect. So vertical translation only. So y equals to minus 3. Vertical translation only changes the horizontal asymptote. Horizontal translation does not changes the horizontal asymptote. Question number 13. The graph of a function f is shown in the diagram. The point A is minus 1 comma 1 is on the graph, and y equal to minus 1 is the horizontal asymptote. The graph g of x equal to f of x minus 1 plus 2 on the diagram. Sketch the graph f of x minus 1. So point A was negative 1 comma 1. Now minus 1 means you should add plus 1 to this. So a prime will become 0. Plus 2 means add 2 to this. So what does that becomes now? 1 plus 2, 3. So 0 comma 3 is the point. 0 comma 3 is the point. So mark it out, 0 comma 3 as 1 point. And so the graph goes in this way, approximately in this way. So let me draw it out properly once again. It goes and moved 1 unit on the right side and 2 units up. Write down the equation of the horizontal asymptote. So basically our horizontal asymptote was minus 1. Now because of the translation of vertical translation of 2 units, it becomes minus 1 plus 2, which is nothing but what? Y equals to 1 is going to be my final horizontal asymptote. Let A prime be a point on G corresponding to point A. Write down the coordinates of A. So we have already written the coordinates of A is nothing but what? 0 comma 3. Write down the equation of the horizontal asymptote. F of 2x. F of 2x. F of 2x is going to be my horizontal translation. So no change in the horizontal asymptote. Y equals to negative 1. 2f of x is vertical translation. So the horizontal asymptote also get multiplied by 2. Y equals to negative 2. Question number 14. The diagram shows the part of the graph of the function f of x equal to q upon x minus p. The curve passes through 3 comma 10, point A 3 comma 10. The line CD is the asymptote. Find the values of P and Q. So you can see that this point is, this is the vertical asymptote from the graph is x equals to 2. From the equation is x equals to p. So it implies p equals to 2. Vertical asymptote from the graph is x equals to 2. From the equation is x equals to p. So p equals to 2. Point. So the equation will become now y equals to q upon x minus 2. Now it is passing through 3 comma 10. Plug in 3 comma 10. 10 equals to q upon 3 minus 2. So what does that becomes? Q equals to 10. The graph f of x is transformed as shown in the following diagram. The point A is transformed to 3 comma minus 10. So 3 comma 10 became 3 comma minus 10, means it is reflection on x-axis because y values are changing. Reflection on x-axis. Write the full description of the transformation. So 2 marks, right? So you should write 2 points. So first point is reflection. Second point is on x-axis or in x-axis. Question number 15. F of x is given as 3 plus 1 upon 2x minus 5. Sketch the curve between minus 5 to plus 5. For sketching the curves, first I should know the horizontal asymptote. What is the horizontal asymptote? It's a bottom heavy equation. So y equals to 0. 0 plus 3 will become plus 3. Vertical asymptote. Denominator equals to 5. So x in denominator equals to 0 means x equals to 5 upon 2. So I am drawing y equals to 3 as the horizontal asymptote. Y equals to 3 and x equals to 5 upon 2. So this is 5 upon 2 and y equals to 3. Then between negative 5 and positive 5. Using the sketch of each asymptote we have done. Next, what is he asking? X-intercept. What is x-intercept? X-intercept means y equals to 0. So y equals to 0, what does it becomes? 3 plus 1 upon 2x minus 5 should be equals to 0. So 1 upon 2x minus 5 equals to negative 3. So it becomes negative 6x plus 15 equals to 0, equals to 1. So negative 6x equals to negative 14, x equals to 14 upon 6, which is 7 upon 3. 7 upon 3 means what does it becomes? 2.333. So which is less than the our asymptote. So because asymptote was 2.5, so this is 2.333. That is the x-intercept. Coming to the y-intercept. Y-intercept means x equals to 0. Or I write it out over here. Y-intercept means x equals to 0. So y equals to 3 plus 1 upon 2 times 0 minus 5. So 3 minus 1 upon 5, which is 3 minus 0.2, which is 2.8. Our y equals to 3 was there, so 2.8 means which is less than this one. So this is the y-intercept. So this basically the graph joining those both will be, this will be the way. So its reflection, it should be over here. The reciprocal functions will be having always two graphs. So this is going to be the answer. Question number 16. F of x equals to p minus 3x upon x square minus p q square. The part of the function f including the asymptotes is given. The equations of the asymptotes are x equals to 1, x equals to negative 1, y equals to 2. Find the value of p and q. Now 3x upon x plus q times x minus q. So my vertical asymptotes will be x equals to negative q, x equals to q. From this one, what I got it out from the graph, x equals to negative 1, x equals to 1. So it clearly says that q equals to 1. So q value equals to 1. Now it's a bottom heavy equation. If it's a bottom heavy equation, this part, so y equals to 0 is going to be the horizontal asymptote, but p is there. So my horizontal asymptote will be y equals to p. But what is the horizontal asymptote over here given? Y equals to 2. So what is p value? P value is 2. Question number 17. The function f is defined by this one. Draw on the grid the graph of this. So with GDC between -3 and +3. So as such, he is asking us to draw with GDC. I'm drawing it out with the GDC, help of GDC over there. So this is -3, -2, -1, 1, 2, 3, and it is passing through 1. So it is approximately in this shape. Write down the equations of the vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes, because vertical asymptotes means denominator equals to 0. X square minus 9 equals to 0. X square equals to 9. X equals to plus or minus 3. X equals to 3. X equals to -3. What is the range? Range is always it is greater than or equals to 1. That's going to be the range. Question number 18. The function f is given by this one. Show that y equals to 2 is the as an asymptote. So it has degree of numerator equals to degree of denominator. So my horizontal asymptote will be y equals to 2. Find the vertical asymptote. Vertical asymptote means denominator equals to 0. Then write down the coordinates of the point P at which the asymptotes intersect. So where do they intersect? So they intersect at 3, 2. The points of intersection of the graph and the axis means x-intercepts and y-intercepts. So x-intercept means again y equals to 0. So it becomes 2x plus 1 equals to 0. So it implies x equals to -1 upon 2. So the point is -1 upon 2, 0. Y-intercept means nothing but what? X equals to 0. It implies y equals to 1 upon -3. So the point is 0, -1 upon 3. Hence sketch the graph. So we have to draw the graph for that one. So I got the graph as y equals to 2 is horizontal asymptote, and x equals to 3 is the vertical asymptote. X-intercept is -1 upon 2, 0. This is the x-intercept, and y-intercept is 0 and -1 upon 3. So the way I can draw the graph is joining those 2 points is approximately in this way. So it's a reciprocal function. It will have its reflection over here. So write it out x, y, 2, 3. This is and the origin O. Then question number 19. Consider the function f and g where f of x equals to 3x minus 5, g of x equals to x minus 2. Find f inverse of x. So 3x minus 5 equals to y, 3x equals to y plus 5, x equals to y plus 5 upon 3. So what does f inverse of x will become? X plus 5 upon 3. Given that g inverse of x equals to x plus 2 and g inverse circle f of x, find. So g inverse of f of x. What is f of x? F of x is 3x minus 5. Plug in that one in this one. So in g inverse 3x minus 5 plus 2. So what does it becomes? 3x minus 3. Given also that f inverse circle g of x is x plus 3 upon 3. Solve f inverse circle g of x equal to g inverse circle f of x. So x plus 3 upon 3 equals to 3x minus 3. So x plus 3 equals to 9x minus 9. So it gives me x value as 12 upon 8, which is 3 upon 2. Then h of x equal to f of x upon g of x. Sketch the graph of h between x lies between -3 and 7 and 2 and -2 and 8. So what is h of x? H of x is 3x minus 5 upon x minus 2. So how should I be able to sketch the graph? First try to find the horizontal asymptote. Horizontal asymptote is y equals to 3. and vertical asymptote. What is vertical asymptote? Denominator equals to 0. Then I find the x-intercept. X-intercept means y equals to 0. So it will be 5 upon 3 comma 0. And y-intercept. Y-intercept means x equals to 0. So 0 comma 5 upon 2. So always try to get these four values. So I got horizontal asymptote at y equals to 3. So let me draw neatly. So horizontal asymptote is at y equals to 3. And vertical asymptote is at x equals to 2. Right over here, y equals to 3, x equals to 2. Origin, x-axis and y-axis. Now x-intercept is 5 upon 3, means 1.666. Over here, 2.5. So the graph becomes approximately, it is in this shape, and it should be the reciprocal function over here. Now, that's not the entire graph. He is asking sketch the graph between -3 and 7 and -2 and 8. So x equals to -3 and 7 and x equals to 8. X values are between -3 and 7. -3 will be over here and 7 will be over here. Whereas y values are between -2 and 8. -2 and 8 somewhere over here. And write down the equations of the asymptotes. We have already written the equations of the asymptotes. Then next part of the question, h inverse of x, write the equations of the asymptotes for h inverse of x. So h inverse of x. So how do I find h inverse of x? Part E, 3x minus 5 upon x minus 2 equals to y. So 3x minus 5 equals to xy minus 2y. So 3x minus xy equals to 5 minus 2y. X common, 3 minus y equals to 5 minus 2y. So x equals to 5 minus 2y divided by 3 minus 5. So what is h inverse of x? Equals to 2x minus 5 upon x minus 3. So what is going to be the vertical asymptote for this one? X equals to 3. What's going to be the horizontal asymptote? Y equals to 2. And lastly, question number 20, solve g of x equals to 0. By using GDC, we'll be getting it out x equals to minus 0.790 and x equals to 1.79. F of x equals to 2x cube upon g of x plus 1. Write down the domain of f. So domain of f means for these values of x, it should not become, denominator should not become 0. So any value of x except those values. Minus 0.790, x is not equals to 1.79. Range. Range is the horizontal asymptote. We can see that. What is that? This is 2x cube and this is x power 4. So we can see that y equals to 0 is going to be the horizontal asymptote for this one because bottom heavy equation plus 1. So y equals to 1 is the horizontal asymptote, but what is this? Y is not equals to 1 is going to be the range. But over here we can see that it is equals to 1 at particular value also. So therefore every number is possible. When every number is possible, so what's going to be the range? The range is y belongs to R. Basically, every time we take the horizontal asymptote, but in this case, you see that it is passing through horizontal asymptote and one is also possible. So therefore, what is the case? Y belongs to R is going to be the range. The graph has a vertical asymptotes at x equals to a and x equals to b. Write down the values of a and b. So when we said that it cannot be equal to these two values, so a should be equals to minus 0.790 and b should be equals to 1.79. The graph has a horizontal asymptote with an equation y equals to 1. Explain why the value f of x approaches 1 as x becomes very large. So when x is large, what happens when x is large? G of x becomes much larger than, because it is x power 4, much larger than 2x cube. So 2x cube upon g of x will be approaching 0. So therefore f of x will be approaching 0 plus 1, means f of x will be approaching 1. That is the reason. So when x is large, g of x is x power 4. It becomes much more larger than 2x cube. So numerator is bigger than the numerator is smaller than the denominator. So this value will become smaller and smaller and smaller, which approaches 0. So f of x will be approaching 1. Then the graph intersects x-axis at point A and B. Write down the values of A and B. X-axis. X-axis means y equals to 0. So by GDC, you can see that A value x equals to -1 and B value x equals to +1. Use the GDC, you should be able to get that. So that completes the worksheet. See you in the next video. Bye.